And once you do that, and you accept and you embrace and you own this identity, your life is going to change, just like my life changed and just like the life of my clients have changed by doing the same process. Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Max Daniel. Have you ever wondered why you keep attracting certain situations into your life over and over? Situations that you don't like, but you seem to not be able to stop them from happening. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why that happens. But not only that, I'm also going to show you how to stop it so that you can begin creating exactly what you want in your life and attracting it with ease. And I'm also going to share a personal story about how I applied this method with myself and I was able to shift my identity to change into who I really wanted to change and how that changed my life forever. And the key thing to understand here is identity, because we can't possibly start creating new outcomes in our life from the same identity that we have created the ones that we have had so far. So a shift in identity is mandatory. It's absolutely essential. Now, what's your identity? Your identity is just a story that you're telling to yourself about who you are, what's happened to you in the past, who you have been so far, and what's possible for you in the future. And therefore, that means that you can change them. So you can choose to change your story, and therefore, you can choose to change your identity. Now, there's a key thing to understand about beliefs that's really important, and that once you master this, it's going to become really easy to understand how to engage in this work. And that is that beliefs are self-reinforcing. That means that your brain is looking for evidence to confirm what you already believe about yourself. The reason why that happens is because your brain is designed to keep you alive. Its function is survival, not happiness, not fulfillment. So if you have been operating from a place where you have a belief about yourself that is limiting, maybe in your relationships, maybe in your career, maybe in your health, but you're still living, then for the brain, that's a massive success because it's doing what it's there for, keeping you alive. So if you want to change that, then you have to understand that you're going against something that the brain loves. It wants it. It works. So the effort to actually change is a very proactive effort that pulls in the opposite direction of your survivalistic needs. This is why it's so hard to change. And this is why the brain loves to find evidence of what it actually believes to be true, even if that's negative or bad for you in many areas that you don't want to keep operating from the same place. So this actually explains why we keep finding ourselves in situations where the thing that we don't want to attract in our life keeps coming to us. And that is because we have a belief that that is what we deserve. And that belief may be that we are unlovable, or we're not good enough, or we're a failure, or we're always going to be abandoned, or something else, or a combination of these things. What the mind is going to do is subconsciously be attracted to situations where this is likely to happen. And not only that, it's also going to interpret the data and information that you receive and about what happens in a way that is going to be completely biased to continue to believe what you already believe about yourself. And this creates a lot of frustration, obviously, because since it happens subconsciously, it's really difficult to interrupt and really difficult to change. And since the mind loves this mechanism, it's also really tough, even once you understand it, to rewire these programs. Think about it this way. Rewiring your programs requires a lot of energy. Rewiring these beliefs that have been formed at a maybe very young age about you takes a ton of work and energy for the brain. The mind does not want to engage in this process of having to reconstruct reality and who you are every single day, because it could be using that energy for something else. So this is why it's so hard. And this is why we're going to encounter these patterns. And these patterns are not something to be scared of. A lot of people give a negative connotation to these patterns, where it continues to reinforce the belief that they are broken or something's wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with encountering patterns. In fact, we actually operate in patterns. And pattern recognition, being able to identify a pattern, it's actually the first step in you being able to change it. So instead of resisting patterns and being afraid of them, begin to cultivate some gratitude for them, because these are perfect windows of opportunity for introspection. The reason for that is that when we encounter a pattern, it usually comes with a trigger, with a situation or outcome that we don't like. Maybe every girl we date always abandons us, or cheats on us, or treats us in a certain way. Or maybe every time we start a project, we abandon it, or we don't follow through. Or maybe every time we go to the gym, we don't have the discipline and the motivation to keep going. Or maybe we're always broke, or in a certain financial situation. This pattern is going to trigger some self-criticism. It's going to trigger some anxiety. it's going to trigger some fear, it's going to trigger some emotions. And these emotions are actually the perfect window for you to go deep within yourself. Because from a neutral state of mind, where you're not triggered, you actually don't have the realist data. You have the data of your conscious mind. You have the data of what you want to believe, that you are worth it, that you are good enough, that you are going to be a success. But deep down inside, you may not believe this. And that deep down inside is actually what runs you. Because your subconscious mind is 99% of your entire mind. Your conscious mind is just like 1% of it. So whatever the content of your subconscious mind is what you're going to be run by. Yeah? So when you get triggered, you actually have a direct path into your subconscious mind. Because now you get to access the realest raw information. And that may be dark sometimes. It may be things like, I'm a fucking piece of shit. I'm a failure. I'm broken. I'm never going to succeed. And maybe many other beliefs like that. So the first thing to do here and the first step for you in this method is to engage in some shadow. And if you're triggered or something bad happened to you recently or there's something that you're resisting in your life, this is the perfect opportunity to do so. If you don't know what shadow work is, this is a concept that was developed by psychologist Carl Jung, which is one of the most useful self-improvement tools I've ever used, and I always use this with my clients. Shadow work involves you taking a deep look at these parts of you that you don't like, the shadow of yourself. The dark parts of you, which by the way, everyone has, but we don't always like that because it's not very socially acceptable or it's not very lovable. And these are exactly the things that are controlling our life. And the more we resist them, the more they have power over us. So engaging in shadow work basically means becoming aware, talking from these parts of yourself, becoming very honest, looking at the shadow instead of looking away and being afraid of it. And by doing this, you're casting a metaphorical light into the shadow by placing your awareness into the darkness. So in real life, how do you make a shadow go away? Is you shine a light on. Well, in your life, in your mind, or in your soul, what we do here is cast a metaphorical light by becoming aware of these things and no longer being scared of them and simply just being acceptance and presence. Now, it can be a little bit triggering to do this work because when you become aware of these things and you write them down, it can actually be very painful because you have to face them. Now you're putting your awareness on these things that you don't like about yourself, and whatever you're putting your awareness on is what you feel. And so it's not a pleasant thing to do, but it's a really, really helpful thing to do. If you would like a prompt to help you engage in this work, I'm going to leave you a free PDF with a guide of questions that you can simply just go through, answer them, and by doing that, you're engaging with your shadow. Now, disclaimer, it's very important that you embody your shadow when you do this work and that you don't let your mind get in the way, because your mind will want to say all these nice things. And shadow work involves like going deep into the darkness, asking yourself tough questions like, why do I hate myself? Why am I a failure? And really allowing yourself to embody that for a while. We're not going to stay there. It's just for the sake of this exercise. But if your subconscious mind gets in the way and says nice things like positive affirmations, I'm happy, I'm a good person, you don't believe this, then you're bypassing your truth and you're continuing to perpetuate the cycle. So just for the shadow work, allow yourself to step into however much criticism and toxicity and negativity you find within yourself. Now, obviously, once we do that, and all you have to do is simply just feel that stuff, let it be there, accept it and feel it, it will lose its power. But that's not it. Obviously, you don't want to just simply sit with a belief that is limiting, that you don't like, that is creating bad outcomes in your life. So the next step, now that we're aware, is going to be rewriting your story. But first, I actually want you to elaborate on this story. I want you to grab whatever deepest and darkest beliefs that you have about yourself, like you're unlovable, you're a piece of shit, you're a failure, you're unworthy, and whatever you can find, and elaborate on that. Journal. Write as much as you can about why. Ask yourself why. And what you will probably find is a set of stories, things that happened to you in the past, things that your parents did to you, things that your ex-girlfriend did to you, your ex-boyfriend did to you, people and circumstances and events in your life that have reflected things that you don't like about yourself and that are reinforcing this belief. And I want you to collect as much data as you can. Once you do that, then now it's time to rewrite your story. And we're going to do that from the opposite energy, because what you will encounter is that your shadow will be full of guilt and shame. This is the energy of the shadow. Guilt and shame. You're bad. You're unlovable. Nobody will ever want you. You're always going to be a success. What a shame. Guilty for that thing you did. Pain, fear, anxiety, grief, all these lower emotions. And now I want to invite you to rewrite the story from higher emotion. Rewrite it again. Go through the same exact opposite events, but intentionally bring the energy of gratitude, compassion, and forgiveness. And just see how the story changes. See how you can actually tell it from a different perspective. And I want you to choose this perspective, because this is the empowering perspective. This is what I did with my own story. Let me give you an example. When I was 5 years old, my dad and my mom got a divorce. And I grew up with my mom raising me by herself and my dad having another family. And this was actually a very painful thing to go through as a child. Obviously, not having my dad around and being confused and hurt, and having my mom raise me by herself and having all this confusion and chaos. And this led me to actually really suppress my emotions and to develop some strong avoidant tendencies that throughout my life, as I grew up, created a lot of problems for me. And the story that I was telling myself up until the point where I started to shift it was that I was this poor little boy, this victim, this failure, this unlovable boy that will never be good enough, that will never be successful. And obviously, from that very painful story, I was continuing to reinforce these beliefs by attracting and creating situations in my life where I always felt like a victim, or like a poor little boy, or like a failure, or like not good enough. And it wasn't until I engaged in this process that I intentionally shifted my story and brought gratitude and compassion and forgiveness to it that I changed my identity. And I realized the same story, with the same events actually, can be told in a completely different way. You can create a different story, and that is up to you to choose. So I want to invite you to choose a new story. I chose to stop calling myself a victim and a poor little boy and not good enough, to actually bring in gratitude and asking myself, what can I do with this? And I brought gratitude to my trauma. I brought gratitude to my pain. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be who I am today. That's where the idea and the desire to become a coach and help others even started to arise from. Because I felt so much pain in me that I had to heal, and now I can actually understand myself on such a deep level that I can also understand other people on a deep level. And I can do something that I love, and I can make money with that, and I can travel the world, and I can have a business. I'm so grateful that happened. But I couldn't have reached this point if I never chose to change my story, to stop calling myself a victim and to actually empower myself. And this is what I want you to do. This is what I want to invite you to do. If you feel like you keep attracting the same results over and over that you don't want, this is your cue. It's a reflection of your limiting beliefs about yourself. And you want to learn what those are by doing the shadow work. You want to write that story, go as deep as you can, and then you want to rewrite it. But now you want to rewrite it as the adult, as the empowered version of you that you want to be. And once you do that, and you accept and you embrace and you own this identity, your life is going to change, just like my life changed and just like the life of my clients have changed by doing the same process. Hopefully you find this video helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment if you like the video. And if you need a little bit of personal help and personal assistance, you can find me on my social media. I'm going to leave my Instagram here. You can contact me there personally. I'll be happy to engage with you and happy to assist you if you need help with this type of work. Thank you so much for watching.